Alright guys, I am back with my 900th video, and this is going to be a Q&A, a very long Q&A, because I have a ton of questions. I appreciate all the questions, got some really good stuff here, but I'm going to start with the questions I got on the channel update video back before I went to the live TNA show. So I'm going to start with those. So those questions are a little dated. This says 3 months ago, so there's going to be some stuff that's kind of outdated. Like this one here says you should start watching Breaking Bad. So there's definitely some old questions here, but I'm going to answer everything and then move on to the newer questions. Probably going to upload this in 3 parts, I'd say. It may take me 4 parts. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, I'm just going to record this in parts. So starting with Anime Watcher 62, will you get the Wii U and PS3 to start these LPs in the near future? Also, will you do commentary along with it? I've been talking to a friend of mine about starting a second channel where we'll do some Let's Plays, but it's probably going to be like PS1 games, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, stuff like that to start off with. So once I finally make that channel, which is going to be a while before I even do that, we're going to record old video games, and we'll probably do that for like a year before we move on to newer stuff. But yeah, we definitely do commentary with them. Just running LA. Oh, this will be cool. Tyson Jackson, hope you have a good time at the TNA show. Like I said, these are dated, so this was before I recorded my review of the live TNA show. Did not have a good time. Question, Tyson Kidd or Justin Gabriel? I'm going to say Justin Gabriel because watching Total Divas, I have a new view of Tyson Kidd. Tyson Kidd comes across as kind of a douchebag on that show, just in my opinion. It's weird. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like his career has never really taken off. But Natalya, because of Total Divas, she's had more success in her career, which has actually helped Tyson Kidd's career, but I feel like he resents her for that. Like he knows the only reason I'm getting matches on Raw is because of my wife. And I think that bothers him. And I think he kind of treats her like a dick at times. Christopher Carter, do you see CZW? I watched CZW. I haven't watched any CZW this year. I usually always watch Tournament of Death, and I didn't even watch that this year. Just the interest wasn't really there for me. But I will probably watch this year's Cage of Death on the internet pay-per-view. And Guide 0345, you should start watching Breaking Bad. I need to record my review of Season 2 of Breaking Bad. I just recently started Season 3. I'm about 2 episodes into that. I'm still really enjoying the show. It's just, with school and everything else, very hard to find time to watch it. When I have free time, I try to watch stuff like the wrestling shows and stuff. Sean Mortimer, are you going to watch The Wolverine and review it? I love the superhero movies, so I definitely plan to watch it. I did see Thor 2, which I want to do a review of that. But yeah, as soon as I watch The Wolverine, I'll definitely do a review of that one. 11 Amiri, if you could repackage at least 3 guys in WWE and TNA, who would it be? And do you think Cody Rhodes will be world champ by the end of next year? I do think Cody Rhodes will be world champ by the end of next year because he kind of has to at this point. What else can they do with him besides give him another run with the Intercontinental title, and no one wants to see that again. So it's kind of like use him or don't use him. And I feel like WWE does have plans to use Cody Rhodes, so next year he's got to win a big title. Most likely world title. Unless they try to unify the belts, which I hope they don't do. And if I could repackage 3 guys in WWE, it would probably be Brodus Clay. I would make him the monster we all expected him to return as instead of the Funkasaurus. I would repackage Alberto Del Rio. And I would repackage John Cena, of course. And for TNA, I would repackage Joseph Park, or just scrap that shit altogether and bring back Abyss. Who else? There's a lot of guys in TNA I don't really feel need to be repackaged, but if I had to pick, maybe the Bromans, even though I like their gimmick. You could repackage those guys, or Austin Aries, maybe it's time for him to be repackaged. Magnus, something to give him some more personality. Guys like James Storm you could repackage, or maybe even Jeff Hardy, but they don't really need it. And I don't really think Austin Aries or Storm or any of those guys need it either, but if I had to pick someone, those are the ones that come to mind. P. Rican Boy 10. Have you seen the horror movie WrestleManiac? I think I've heard of that one, but I haven't seen it. Zombie Zoo 1000. Do you have a Wii U, and will you make videos about it? I do not have a Wii U. I don't know anybody who does, honestly. It's really sad to me as a huge Nintendo fan. I mean, I have all the Nintendo consoles, and I don't even have a Wii U, so hopefully they can do something to improve the sales, but Wii U was doing pretty bad before the competition of Xbox and PS4, so now you add those two systems to the mix, it's like, man, Wii U is freaking doomed, but at least Nintendo's doing really well with the 3DS. But if I ever do get a Wii U, I probably won't make videos about it, because I hear that Nintendo is really strict about people uploading footage from their systems now. So yeah, I probably wouldn't even do that, sadly. Okay, I had to scroll up to the comments for this next one. Something happened with the comments here, and it's like a two-part question, kind of. Just Credible 9, did you hear about the deal Warner Brothers made with, scroll down here, with Paramount so that they can make a new Friday the 13th? I have not heard about that, but I think that's awesome. I would love a new Friday the 13th movie. I like the remake. I'm one of the few people who did, apparently. But I really did like the remake, and if they continue the series like that, I'm all for it. Liberty Bell, in your opinion, what really happened to women's wrestling, and do you feel that if promotions are not going to take their women's division somewhat seriously, that they should just scrap the whole division altogether, relegate women to valet managerial roles, and get rid of this tits and ass nonsense? By the way, I better get this in early. Happy 800th when it should roll around. Allow me to add, Roll Tide. Your reviews are always top-notch. Congrats. Enjoy the matches. With women's wrestling, I feel that it does have its place, and I really don't think it's tits and ass anymore. At least not in WWE. They want to have women's wrestling in WWE, but a lot of the girls are still really green. They don't know what they're doing. And the quality of matches is not there. TNA pretty much showed everyone how to do women's wrestling. When they did Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, the Beautiful People, they were doing some great stuff. So you can have good women's wrestling. But right now, it's TNA's roster for the women's division is down to damn near nothing. And in WWE, they don't put any focus on it. It's kind of like they want to do women's wrestling, but they don't want to put the time and effort into making it good. And I think that's the problem. But it doesn't really bother me if they can do it right. When it's just lame crap like the fucking... Oh my god, what was it? The Divas musical chairs? Get that shit out of here. Robert Strickland, when will you do a contest? I have no idea. Maybe one day. Jersey 12361. Can you review Jaws? I know Jaws technically isn't a horror movie, but I would like to do a series like I do with the horror movies, where I do watch all the Jaws movies, because I've seen them all, and even though they do get pretty bad, I'm still a huge fan of just shark movies in general. I love that crap, so I definitely plan to do all the Jaws movies at some point. I actually watched them all again probably 4 years ago. James Exorcist, I have a couple if that's okay. What's your favorite Bret Hart match? And what's your favorite Royal Rumble match? Thanks. Favorite Bret Hart match would probably be the one he had with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Or I wouldn't say the Shawn Michaels match, just because Iron Man matches to me are really hard to pull off. And I remember watching that as a kid on pay-per-view, and towards the end I was like, how much longer is this fucking shit? So when I was really young, I was getting burned out on that Iron Man match, so I can't say that's my favorite Bret Hart match, but the one with Steve Austin was great. And he's had a ton of great matches. I mean, the stuff with Owen Hart was good. I really liked the Hart Foundation with Hill Bret Hart. But he was injured for a lot of that. He was in the wheelchair. And favorite Royal Rumble match? Oh man, that one's really tough. I want to say 2001, because it had a lot of guys I like Raven came out with a Singapore Cane. They had some ECW guys in there. I think 98 is the one that started off with Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. And I thought that was really cool, but then you had a bunch of other guys in the matches. Like, I think they had the DOA, where it was Chains and 8-Ball, and it was like they had some really good talent in the Royal Rumble matches, but then they had a lot of filler. Like Los Boricuas was 4 guys, the DOA was 4 guys, and it was just a bunch of those filler names that would come out to take up space, and that kind of hurt it for me. It's hard to pick a Rumble match that just had a ton of talented wrestlers and didn't have a lot of filler. It seems like every single Rumble match has had a lot of filler in it. Gary May, do you think, or Jiggy John 90, 2 questions for you. What are your thoughts on WWE pay-per-views sharing the same name as a match type, Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber? What are your thoughts on Darren Young coming out gay? Do you think it will hinder or help his career? Once again, this is kind of a dated question. I feel like it helped his career for like 2 weeks. That was it. Now nobody gives a shit about him again. He's right back where he was, honestly. And as far as the gay thing, I don't know what the point was. I think it was set up, like I said in one of those videos I did around the time these questions were asked. I feel like it was set up just for publicity. Why else would TMZ be there asking Darren Young questions like that at 3 in the morning or whatever it was? It was all set up, and I don't understand the purpose of it, but it doesn't really bother me personally. I don't care. And Hell in a Cell, I think the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view sucks. I think it really hurts the stipulation. Elimination Chamber doesn't bother me, but Hell in a Cell should be reserved for ending big feuds. And that is it. They should never use that gimmick just for the hell of it. But at this point, it's like the damage is done. Gary May, do you think TNA will still be in business 5 or 10 years from now? I keep hearing about them having money problems. Well, even if they are having money problems, I hear about people wanting to buy it. Like Billy Corgan, which I think would be cool. But 10 years, I don't know. I think they'll survive for at least 5, especially if people want to buy it. But let's say they sold TNA tomorrow, and then a new guy takes over. They make a lot of changes. The ratings fluctuate. Spike says, you know what, fuck this, drops it. Then they would be out after 5 years. So I think they got at least 5. But 10, I don't know. I hope they make it 10. I feel like the more wrestling, the better. Player the Gamer, you getting PS4? Probably not. If I do get time to play a new video game system, I would like to get the PS4. That is one of the new consoles I think would be pretty cool. And I'm not sure if it's backwards compatible with the PS3, but if it is, that would be a huge selling point for me because there's a lot of PS3 games I missed out on. Jersey12361, can you give me a shout out? Jersey12361. Chase Swampy, what are your religious beliefs if you have any? I am a Christian. Just Credible 9, that's the Friday the 13th question. Kayfabe Candy Ass, would you like to cut a promo with Brock Lesnar? Of course, that would be awesome. But it would probably end up being a terrible promo. Hawks Hockey 8819, go backstage at TNA. Once again, this is a really old comment. And if you watch the live show review, I would have had to pay another $50 to go backstage at TNA. I really got screwed over on that one. Godson92, are you going to review the Chris Benoit movie when it's released? I really didn't even know they were making a Chris Benoit movie. I had always heard about it, but I thought it was just a rumor. But if they are making it, then I'll definitely review it. Philippe Kovacic, CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan. If you're asking me who I think is better, easily Daniel Bryan. I think CM Punk has the edge when it comes to mic skills. But even then, I don't think he's anything amazing. He did cut the awesome worked shoot promo, but it's not like he's Steve Austin on the mic or anything like that. And that's just my opinion. To me personally, I don't think CM Punk is that great. And Daniel Bryan's mic skills are fine. But what Daniel Bryan lacks in mic skills, he more than makes up for with his ring work. 2, why don't you watch NXT? Really, it's just a time issue. I already watch so much wrestling, and trying to watch all the wrestling shows and the TV shows I want to review, like Walking Dead and American Horror Story, I just don't really have a lot of extra time to add another wrestling show. Favorite wrestling chant of all time? What? No, I hate that. But seriously, my favorite wrestling chant has to be "You Suck." When Kurt Angle would come out in WWE and the fans would chant "You Suck" along with his theme music. That's always been a favorite chant of mine. I'd love to see him return just to hear that chant again. Scene Play. You should review Hyenas, a crappy movie with Costas Mandylor, I think is his name, and Mr. Right from Ned's Declassified. It is a bad movie but funny too. I have not heard of Hyenas. Luke Rated Willock. What do you prefer, PS3 or Xbox, and why don't you open a Ask FM account? Then you can answer questions on there every day. Well, for me, first of all, I don't know what Ask FM is, but for me, when it comes to PS3 or Xbox, it's really just what the majority of my friends are playing. I don't own either system, but if I had to pick one system, I think both of them are so close that it would just be whatever my friends are playing online, because that's who I'd be playing with. So if more of my friends have an Xbox, I would get an Xbox. But I think they're both great systems. Honor and Power 311. Do you sometimes watch some old episodes of Raw and SmackDown from the PG era and etc.? What are some reasons you are not a fan of Cena? I never watch old episodes of Raw or SmackDown from the PG era. On occasion, I'll watch episodes from the Attitude era, and I really like the early 90s era, around 95, 96, with Shawn Michaels, Vader, Goldust, Razor Ramon. But I never go back and watch old Raws and SmackDowns from PG era. And some of the reasons I'm not a fan of Cena, I feel he's really predictable, and WWE has made him the Superman-like character. And if you read Superman comic books or watch the movies or anything, a lot of people have come to dislike Superman because he's too perfect. His only real weakness is kryptonite. But other than that, he really is a bland, generic character. He always does the same things. And I feel like that's the problem with Cena. He always does the same things, and he has no weaknesses. When you watch his match, you know he's going to win. And the best way to describe Cena is predictable. It gets boring watching someone win all the time and never really being able to suspend your disbelief that the other guy has a chance of winning. I have nothing against Cena as a person, though. Fiber Optic Hell, been watching for quite some time. We seem to have a lot in common, especially with your thoughts on movie reviews. When you start reviewing movies again, I wanted to know if you would review Mr. Brooks and Movie 43. One is a darker suspense and the other is a dark comedy with the biggest all-star cast ever. I am just very curious about your thoughts on these two. Please answer on your way to Impact and have fun. I haven't seen Movie 43. I'm not sure what that is. I think I did see a trailer for that movie, and it's fairly recent, if I'm not mistaken. I just remember in the trailer the guy's talking to the basketball team, and he's like, "You don't have anything to worry about. You're black. You're going to win." If that's the same movie, I haven't seen it. And Mr. Brooks I did see, and I really like that movie. It's where he's a serial killer, and I think Dane Cook is in it. That was a really good movie. Rico the Spanish G. Who would you bring into WWE NXT next, and what do you think about Curtis Axel and his current run as IC champ? Well, with Curtis Axel, he started off pretty strong. He technically beat John Cena and Triple H, but then they backed off of him, and he just became a regular guy. Yeah, he had Heyman with him, but he just became another guy on the roster they weren't really doing anything with. And his run was pretty uneventful in my opinion. He had some bad matches against CM Punk, and it was just really hard for fans to get into Curtis Axel. So I didn't really care for his run. Not so much his fault, I'd say. I think the booking could have been better for Curtis Axel, but he definitely does not have that it factor. Who would you bring into WWE or NXT? I personally would look at guys like Michael Elgin. I think he's amazing, and if they didn't have Biggie Langston, I could easily see Michael Elgin in that role. Adam Cole is another guy, Tommaso Ciampa. Those are three up-and-coming guys who I think would be awesome in the WWE. Marijuana Zone. Man, he flies by his vids. It seems like it was only a couple weekends ago that I had watched his 700th vid. Yeah, I definitely fly by these, and believe it or not, I've actually slowed down. Before I was watching a lot more movies, watching a new movie for a review every single week. I think I did like a video every day. Anime Watcher 62. Oh, and by the way, since Darren Young says that he's gay, do you think that Vince will turn it into an angle? Because I do want to see horrible jokes backstage, and then Ryback will have to bully him because he's gay. Vince loves money, LOL. Well, we know they didn't turn into an angle, but there is no way in hell they would bully him because he's gay. They just would not do something like that in this era of wrestling. Vince back in the day probably would. I remember when Vince said the N-word to Booker T. And it was hilarious, but Vince was crazy, and I still think he's crazy, but with the PG era and everything, there is absolutely no way he would do something with Ryback making fun of Darren Young for being gay. TBH Serial Killer, when do you think WWE will finally give Wade Barrett the WWE or World Heavyweight title? How much longer do you think the Shield will be around, and do you think they'll ever be adding any new members? And when do you think they'll quit wasting pure raw talent like Antonio Cesaro, Jack Swagger, Drew McIntyre, etc.? With Wade Barrett, I don't even think he's on the radar for the WWE title. So we're talking about the world title here. And at the earliest, I think it's probably going to be 2 years before he gets the world title. At the earliest. With the Shield, I don't think they're going to be adding any new members. I actually think the Shield will break up shortly after WrestleMania 30, probably around Money in the Bank next year with Roman Reigns leaving the group. And then they'll probably do like Rollins and Ambrose as a tag team or something like that. And when will they quit wasting talent like Cesaro, Swagger, McIntyre? Cesaro has so much talent, and he's getting so over. I know guys like Triple H really like him, so I think Cesaro's going to be fine. Jack Swagger, I don't see ever really leaving the mid-card scene, and Drew McIntyre is just fucked. After 3MB, I don't see him doing anything past the mid-card, if that. I really like Drew McIntyre, so it sucks, but there's just too much competition. You already have guys like Damian Sandow and even Dolph Ziggler, who's kind of fucked in his own way, who has a ton of talent. And then you have all the guys in the NXT system coming up. So for McIntyre, yeah, I think this 3MB thing was like the final nail in the coffin for him. But at least he's on television and getting a paycheck. Steven Smith, what horror series are you doing next? It's been a while. Is it a Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween? Well, it's a Nightmare on Elm Street, but I do plan to do Halloween in the future. Halloween is another one of my favorite series. And League of Super Reviews. When are you going to review movies again? Well, last year I was reviewing a lot of new movies at the theater, and I know I've kind of backed away from that recently, but I do plan to do some movie reviews here and there. But right now my main focus as far as movie reviews goes is getting the old horror movies done. I want to finish A Nightmare on Elm Street and watch the new Chucky movie. So that's my focus right now, is getting the old horror movies done. But that is the last question from the old channel update before the TNA show. So I will be back shortly with part 2 of this Q&A.